have a lot of fiction, and sometimes you're the best audience. Or actually, not even sometimes. You're the best audience that I have, and you also understand it. Um, so where was I? I was talking about Lillian. So yeah, so she has to go to this ball, and she's basically told by like, he's not her boyfriend, but he's like the most powerful billionaire male, and he's lording over her, and she knows that everyone else knows that he's lording over her, and so he's like, it's not the same as being a sugar baby. That's different. Like the girls that get to serve the drinks, those can be sugar babies. Um, but it's different when you're like part of the mask. Like if you're wearing a mask, even if people know who you are by sight, it's still like you may not actually necessarily be that body. But because she actually is herself, it gives her an implicit power above all the other people who are kind of like their network processing through a human being as kind of like a weird vampiric like power occult dynamic. like like me and you meet each other's bodies on the dance floor, but there's like two billionaires behind us, and then they're streaming our sense organs to God knows how many people. Like probably at least a couple powerful few. And so the whole thing becomes this tangled web of like who is who. Did you ever watch any of the episodes of this show called Altered Carbon? It is. I only bring it up because it isn't. It's not great, right? But it has. I think out of the cyberpunk genre, I think it has the best aesthetic, and it deals with life and death the best. And it isn't really second to Ghost in the Shell. It's that Ghost in the Shell is actually a different genre, and it explores it differently, and it explores it more through like a an Eastern philosophy of energy and ghosts rather than a a computer version of like it's almost written as if it's like game fiction, if that makes sense. Like game fiction, anybody can die and you'll always respawn. It's written as if it's like a real world like cop drama thriller. I don't know, but it explored life and death pretty well, and it also explored hierarchy pretty well. And so I want to take a lot of influence. It's one of the very few things I actually take influence from that show specifically towards. But it's this chapter where she's on this boat, and the boat is where the ball is taking place, and the only way to get there is by helicopter, and not just helicopter. Like it says, like please arrive at this time for the helicopter. But then what happens is it's kind of like a power thing where like all the billionaires arrive at what they think is the party, but then anybody that is like cleared to go to the actual party gets to go to the actual party. And the actual party is like it's like exactly what you'd expect billionaire playboy douchebags who rule the world as fucking vampires in whatever bodies they want, controlling whoever they want, doing whatever they want would do. And so Lillian gets too close to that sun because she's an orbiting craft. Like she isn't the actual sun. She feels as if she could be, because her human instinct tells her that she's the same, but she isn't. Like she's not that level of cyborg. And so they're testing her, and she pushes back against the boundary, not really understanding kind of like what it's like to be a brat to the wrong daddy. Is kind of how it's framed because it's like a kink thing where she's like she's not supposed to wear jewelry. Like the people who are wearing jewelry, it means something very explicit. It means that they are there in their own personal capacity, and it doesn't matter how spiffy you look or how hot you are. If you're wearing jewelry, you're yourself. You're not allowed to do it if you're puppeting somebody else's body because it's kind of like it's religious. It's a religious belief that like it's an immoral sin almost to make someone else's body burdened for your beauty. You can use their beauty and you can use them to your utility, but you can't actually burden their body with more than just like clothing. And that is when they accept the clothing for themselves, if that makes sense. And part of the team effort that it takes to be, it's like you go on behalf of a billionaire. You're not just some street peasant who is attractive. You're someone who has been groomed for this. And so people have their own bodies that they like basically force their way into, and it's kind of like blurring the line between who and what are you actually talking to. Like, is it slave and master? And so she goes basically wearing master's jewelry, and it's like a master's ball. It's like masters of the world, and like people know but they don't like. She thinks she's proving a point, but actually all she does is she kind of outs herself as an immature human whore, and then she's looked down upon, and then gets axed from the potential council because of that one taboo, because they realize that she's an ego fucking maniac. She is, and like she's very traumatized, and I think the core of what her story is discovering that like you can't. So it's like it's narcissism that I'm exploring, but it isn't the type. It isn't at all actually the type that my mother exhibits, but it's similar. It's more similar to my own like reflective negative traits of my mother's, if that makes sense. And piloting that at the highest level of fictional imagining is this annoying character's fall from grace, and subsequent, I think, rebuilding with the other side of the curtain, which is like what happens when you explore every single part of your own mind rather than like the opposite of just gaslighting yourself constantly. Like what happens when you're actually forced to like, I don't know, be trans. Like it's not so easy to just have another body that you that beams control to you. Like it's a different thing. And Candy Chan is explicitly a different thing. Like most people are not dead. I would say only Candy Chan is dead. It's not. It's like a weird thing. The alien can bring people back to life. It can bring corpses back to life, and it can also hack into their brains, kind of, and so their eyes will glow. Yo, you know what is it, Eldritch Horror? How like the eyes and the mouth glow. Have you ever seen that trope? Yeah. So the corpses are hanging from tentacles, and the tentacles are made of the leeches during the last chapter, and the tentacle has brain slugged into the people, and the brain slug is making every single dead person talk all at the same time as a hive mind, but some of them are just like barely gasping for air because they're already starting to rot, and it's just their cybernetic brain, the inner tubes of that being controlled by the leech monster. And so it's based on this character called Envy, and Envy aesthetically is like thousands of souls put into one creature. And so no matter how far you zoom in, there's always less powerful souls that are like inside of each other and all screaming and crying and sad because they used to be like alive in a city where they were sacrificed to make the philosopher's stone. But that's not my lore. That's the lore from Full Metal Alchemist. But the look of it is that there's like all these different dead people inside of her. Like, well, it's actually them. They're definitely like a non-binary character, and they misgender her. It angers me. It's like the character should have been either trans or non-binary, but they only were using she/her pronouns, and I was like, okay, thanks English translations, thanks. Anyway, so where was I? Sorry, the balloon popped a little.
Lillian's fall from grace.
Oh yeah, so she ends up working kind of because she has to at the smartest job she can take. And so they don't recognize that she's a doctor, right? Like there's no reason for them to believe that this is just random street peasant that rolled in is anything but just like a weird like so they think so okay so they pull her out, right? This is what happens to her when she's unconscious. They pull her out of the poop and they put her in the like the ER, but the ER in the slums is not an ER. It's like a field hospital from World War One. It's not good, and it's a tent that is completely sealed in with plastic, and then the floor is all the beds are raised like so that you know the raised beds or whatever, and but then there's like rat traps and stuff because like it's fucked up when you see like rat traps and stuff, and so
Yeah.
she wakes up there and just immediately like tries to start like she's like screaming for like 2 days straight. She has like a total psychotic episode basically. But when she finally calms down, she's like asking all these questions, but like to it's like a time traveler. She's so out of place. You know what I mean? Like she's talking about things that these people like barely speak the same language and don't necessarily care what she's saying. They just assume she's delusional. And so by the fifth day, they've obviously realized that she's not delusional. She's literally running the place. And actually, she's not prisoner there anymore, because they're trying to get money out of her at first to just kind of shake her down because her teeth are really nice and they want to like take her apart to like steal her teeth to sell her teeth to fund her own healthcare. But she ends up discussing with them that that's not an option for her. And so she starts running the place, and then she is given back her lab coat because she fell in with her lab coat. And so it's filthy. They hand it back to her and it's filthy. And he's like, "Hey, by the way, like this was on you. Like the pockets are sealed. We couldn't get in." And she's so happy. Like it's like, and then she like immediately takes it, puts it back on, hits the button, and then it becomes like perfectly clean. Like it's like instantaneously perfectly clean. And they're just like, "Oh damn!" Like it's like there's this scene. It's a really problematic scene because it's white saviorism where the woman steps off of the boat. I cannot remember the movie anyways. It's like an 80s movie that I only saw like a long time ago, but there's this scene where she's wearing this coat and it's like pristine. Anyways, so she gets her magical cloak back, and from that point she basically starts plotting revenge. Like even at that moment, like she's just like immediately determined, but she's also autistic as fuck and she's really struggling with this. And so like she has to walk to the market, and so Candy Chan becomes kind of her like seeing eye autist who tells her like you're gonna want to hold your breath. This is one of the best chapters actually. She's like, you're gonna want to hold your breath. And so she does. She like holds her breath, and then Candy Chan's like, you're gonna want to breathe here, but it's not gonna be good. And if you don't breathe here and you try to breathe up there, you're gonna pass out. And so she like breathes, and it's like the worst thing. And so she gets to where Candy Chan said you're gonna pass out. Not only does she pass out, but she starts puking first, trips and holds up the entire line, and then has to go now through like citizen. It's like the most annoying thing. It's where the government harasses you using a drone, but the drone is a human, and it's basically like you have to go deal with the DMV and prove your identity at an identity proving station. Like it's the worst. And so she has to go do that, and so she's about to start saying like who she is, but then she like thinks about it, and then she like gives a fake name, and it doesn't believe her, and but then it doesn't really know. It's like she's already in the slums, so all it does is just reject her from the city. And yeah, after that I don't really know where to go with it, but it's gonna be good though. I think I think where it goes is that both Mouse and Lillian um like train her, if that makes sense. Sometimes I think I should just delete Mouse and only run Lillian, but the whole story kind of falls apart when I try that. Like and I've been trying that for years. So yeah. It it almost seems like Lillian is a different story, but it is definitely 100% the same universe, and there are definitely shared characters. So I don't really know what to do with all that. Thanks for letting me just like world build with you while I'm really stoned.
Of course. I love it. It's fun.
Yeah, I want to be able to like make like an like a RPG like choice game, cuz
Yeah.
like you've probably played one where it, like gives you options, like, and then you could like tell it like look up at the tree, and it'll be like, "Oh, the tree is really tall. What a great tree." But there will be nothing in the tree. And then you'll write like dig a hole, and it'll be like you dig a hole and find a chest. Have you ever played those?
Yeah, definitely.
Those
Not a lot. I have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to make one of those out of Candy Chan, and I want it to be cuz it's only going to like ChatGPT is already like public now. You don't even have to write all of its options or have like it can interpret your options in a way that the ones that I used to play as a child definitely couldn't. And actually you'd have to look up guides that they would basically sell the guides, because it would be so esoteric and you would have to have all the spelling perfectly because there was not it just wasn't you couldn't really program it a different way back then. It was too basic. Now it's so complicated that it can like interpret large sequences of chat and generate entire worlds off script within boundaries.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is. It's like and so Candy Chan is not there yet, but my hope is that in the very near future that it will be. I want to start gathering like a writing team so that I can give them like word association clusters, like certain words. This is an activity an exercise I've been doing with my writing community and my writing tutorials, where
Mhm.
there is what was I talking about? I got sidetracked in my own brain because I realized I was in Candy Chan and I'm not in gear for whatever I was talking about. What was I talking
Yeah,
about?
you were talking about Lillian's fall from grace and like how she got to the other side of the market
Oh
and like
yeah,
that she threw up. Yeah,
yeah. Sorry, I completely went off the tracks there.
that's okay.
So one of the things I've been doing, and this does actually tie in. One of the things I've been doing is when I've been doing my editing, I've been looking at the visual words that people have because a lot of it is not visual. A lot of it is like smell, because like she passes out and smells heinous smells. Like I have to describe those, and it's gonna be like a cross between rotting meat and cleaning solution, and that's pretty visceral. But you couldn't
Yeah.
tell a computer to generate an image of that. You just couldn't. And so I want a team to put together a visually stimulating world build into a series of words that, when always used, generates a prompt that can artificially generate and render art using like stable diffusion. And
Uh-huh.
from there, because like so I found out you can layer your prompts, so you can tell it like a tall gray 4K rendered building. That's one prompt. Or what you should do is actually do layered prompts, where one is like a building and it's tall and it's this many floors and it's square and it has this type of dimension, and then the layer below that you'll tell it it is nighttime and the sun is at this angle and the background is this. And then another layer, you can tell it generate using Unreal Engine with a saturation mark for shadow at this percentage, and it can just like do that too. And like, so you can get really complicated with what you're like telling it to do. And so my assumption is that if I figure out a sequence of words that are always for the foundation of what I want it to generate in a certain art style, especially if I can feed it some of my own art, like my own kind of Candy Chan drag show artwork. It's terrible artwork, but it's adorable. And if I can render that using artificial intelligence, I mean, it wouldn't just save time because that's not what it's about. It would actually just make it possible using machine tools because I don't have money to hire people. And then it's funny because people are always like, "Oh, you should pay artists. You should pay artists. It's so bad. You should pay artists." And I'm always like, "Yeah, but I'm not going to feel guilty because I don't have money to pay artists. This is my artwork."
Yeah.
And then you can bitch later about like, oh, this game didn't take enough money to produce." Like, I'm not going to be morally suckered out of it. So that's my goal. I want to find like an Unreal Engine master who is like a stable diffusion. Like 10 years from now, the stable diffusion artists are going to be getting paid a lot of money just to do word prompting,
Yeah.
just to like come up with like creative words and just like creative sequences of words to feed to computers. And
Yeah.
yeah, there's really it's going to be pretty intense now that it's like a public thing that's like, yeah, this is the future.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Thanks for listening.
Of course. Thank you for telling me about technology stuff in like a competent and interesting way that isn't just like someone, I don't know, tech throwing out about like Elon Musk and Tesla.
Yeah, I don't really
Because like
understand the
that
Elon Musk narrative. Like I feel like it's like taken over the Trump narrative.
he's an Edison is what he is. He is rich and his image is everything. So his image is falling apart, so his stock is tanking. He hasn't actually invented anything himself. He's not actually that smart. Like what he is smart about is marketing and marketing his image of genius to people. That is what his smarts are. But like in terms of like actually inventing shit, all of his inventions have proved to be like vanity projects and fancy, expensive toys that fall apart and blow up and hurt people who use them.
I've always thought of
So,
him as like the front consumer bleeding edge of the War Department, like the International War Department, and like I have no idea if that's really true, but it just seems like the real money is in like I don't know, like defense rocket telemetry and like offensive first strike capability using machine learning distributed network denial attacks. Like that
it
seems to
could be
be
that, but I also know for a fact that Tesla makes most of their money not through their cars, but with like selling their. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's the specific thing that like, uh, it's like green energy credits. Like
yeah.
they are like a certified green energy company because of what they're doing. Except it's not that green; it's extractivism. But whatever. Like they're able to export those credits and sell them to other companies who aren't green energy, so like fossil fuel companies and like other tech companies. And that's how they make their money is by selling like these green energy credits to them, so that it looks like the other companies are going greener, but actually they're just buying like these green energy credits from Tesla, and that's how they're making most of their money actually.
I don't know any shit about business, babe. You know a lot more. My brain when it comes to like system analysis and money, it becomes an infeasible contraption for my brain to like hold. I'm just like, what? A market? I don't
So
understand
I might
markets.
as well be like speaking Greek.
Yeah, like I mean, like I kind of understand it because like the only analogy that I can kind of draw parallel to of an experience that I've seen that may have been similar, but may also not have been similar, was when Bitcoin was inflating rapidly. People started to
Uh-huh.
basically change the structure of the way that they were able to purchase the amount of debt into the crediting process of the valuation or something like that. Like that sounds like word salad to me because it sounds like word salad of a system to me. But that's my best recollection. So there's probably some terms that I'm misdiagnosing or whatever. But yeah, I think it was to the effect of like if I wanted to pay $10 for something I thought was worth $100, then I could borrow $100 and fuck you if I don't ever pay it back. And
Mm.
that basically became the paradigm where people started taking out like not a little bit, a lot of money to like just value against a thing that was speculatively worth something that didn't really have other than they needed to cash it out. Like there needed to come a point where the smart money cashed out, and then that happened, and now it's just kind of like this meme. And I feel like a lot of these big companies, if they're not just directly fraudulent and unlawful, just trying to scheme money, then they're at least what it is that creates money to the best that I can understand. Like they're really out there attaching military power, which I think is the root of a lot of it, to like you had
Yeah.
said, the extractive nature of things. And so it's like, yeah, all this different stuff about it, but like it's the consumer edge of that. Like it's like Samsung. Like I'm buying a Samsung phone, but like Samsung's like a huge fucking conglomerate. Like how much of that pressure on the local warlords that are working for those big corporations, like how much of that power keeps those people enslaved and oppressed? I literally have no idea. I look at it and I'm just thinking to myself like that's fucked up. Like like that's fucked up.
Yeah.
I don't know how to make any of it stop or any of it better. I'm just really glad that me and you will get to take a shower together and that we have the internet.
Me too.
Dude, why are we American? That's like a meme.
Oh my god, yeah, like so like when I was just explaining the war in Ukraine to the kids in San Antonio, like I got to the part where like I was like, yeah, actually so like the US has been stoking aggression between the Ukraine and Russia since the 90s, and now it's all coming to a head and we're kind of responsible for it a little bit. And they were like, "Oh, so we're the bad guys?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, kind of. We're not the only bad guys, though. But, yeah." Oh, man.
They're
Uh,
gonna
that
grow
was
up anti-state.
mhm.
Yeah, I was. It's funny because I grew up anti-state, but around me, every single person was a state-supporting idiot. Everyone's a goose stepper around here. Like every single person is a goose stepper. Goose stepper. And
Yeah.
I am a non-tax-paying civilian non-combatant, and I don't really have much else than that for the world.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they don't jail people like me and you for just memeing.
Same. Same. It's super cool that they don't do that, and I haven't been secret policed or anything like that.
Yeah, not that I know of at least. And if there is that consequence that happens someday when the whole entire system decides it's gonna start enforcing it, then that will happen.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Yeah.
not though.
Same. Yeah. Hopefully not.
So Samar, right, the kid with the orb. So
Uh-huh.
he this is based on my own childhood directly. So his first job was to he's sitting around, right? And like he doesn't have autism at all. Like he's not ADHD. He's a sociopath, this kid. He's like the most powerful fucking tribal leader sociopath type. And he has to learn humility. And so it's more autism than it is psychopathy. Like it isn't direct maliciousness, but it's like autistic maliciousness. Candy Chan really likes the kid, and so lets him in like a monkey from the cold because he's homeless. And so he is downstairs, and she tells him you have to stay in the kids section, and that means that the only person that you're going to be in there with basically is this annoying 14-year-old and this annoying 17-year-old. And this kid's like an 8-year-old boy, and he's annoying as fuck. And he smells bad, and he's bleeding, and he picks his nose and just throws things. He has no manners, and he calls everyone fool. And so he realizes that he can put his grubby little fingers in every single coin return slot and get coins out. And so then he watches and he realizes that he can look under the machines for coins. So he gets all the coins, and then he asks somebody. He asks the 14-year-old. He's like, "What game gives the best ticket reward ratio?" Although he won't phrase it like that. He'll probably just be like, "Which one is the most tickets?" And she'll be like, "The best ratio is this," and he'll be like, "So I should play that?" And she's like, "If you want the most tickets." So he goes and he plays it, and then, like, she totally bullshitted him. She makes him play the gayest, girliest game in the whole place. And so some guy walks over and sees that he's getting 3 tickets each time and realizes what the kid is doing. And he's like, "Hey, you're not supposed to play it, but the infraction bot won't hit you on the head because you're too young. So if you want, you can go over there. That's the best. That's actually the best one." And so he goes over and he plays that one. It's like this annoying UFO game, and it's just called the UFO game. And all you have to do is, it's like, do you know that game that like the light bulbs go around and it spins and you gotta hit it and try to like do it? Where you have to hit the light.
Like,
It's like spinning around and you have to hit the button, and then the light will stop, and you gotta try to stop the light. But it's like
yeah,
rigged.
I've seen that.
Yeah, it's like rigged. Like you can't win that game. And so that's actually the best one. But he's too short. He's literally too short to play the game. So he goes and he finds like a step stool, and it's a step stool to get into one of the 3D rendering machine pods that you like sit in and look forward towards like a focusing screen, which is like a cone shaped thing. And then yeah, it's just like a VR pod basically. And so he gets all these different quarters and he pops them all in. So he gets a shit ton of tickets. Candy Chain comes downstairs and finds this kid with all these tickets. She's like, "What the hell you need all these tickets for anyway?" She's like, "Who'd you steal quarters from? Because you're not allowed to buy them from the exchange machine. You're too young, and I know I didn't give you any." And he's like, "I found them, fool. They were abandoned." And she's like, "That's fine. You can clean my floors. In fact, I'll pay you to clean the machines." And she's like, "What the hell are you even gonna buy with those tickets? Like, there's nothing you need at the ticket exchange. Besides, you're a kid. You can't exchange anything for any of those prizes." And he's like, "I'm selling them, fool." And she's like, "Ah, I see. That's an infraction." And the infraction bot starts its way over. And it comes down, but it doesn't bop him in the head. It just drops and says, "Infraction." And he says, "Shut up, fool." And that's the kind of the end of the chapter. So the next chapter, Mouse, uh, has paid this kid because she got paid. So did I tell you the chapter where Mouse gets paid?
Um.
She
Uh,
so in that chapter she gets recruited. She gets recruited to work at the bar, and she's getting taught a bar trick. And the bar trick is that you basically break the bottle and make yourself look like an idiot because the men will always tip more. But you have
oh,
to.
that's right.
So she gets paid in that chapter, and she gets paid a whole bunch of like gambling tokens basically, and she can return those, and they advise her to do so slowly. She can exchange those on the crypto market, which basically means that she can literally buy food, like it's actual currency, it's actual money she can spend in the city, and that's an important distinction because up until that point she's basically been like mousetrapped. So
Uh-huh.
she has no need for the coins anymore. She doesn't have to play the games to win to literally win food. Now she's getting paid. She has a job. So she pays it down. She hires this little kid. So she pays him to go to do what she was supposed to do, which is clean the machines. So now she's got this kid working and pays him the coins, and then this kid goes and uh literally fills up the UFO game, and they have to come over and like change the quarters out, and Candy Chain is pissed because there's all these gooey ass coins in there, and she's like, we have to run this through the pressure wash. Like that's we're gonna have to use the warm water on this. Do you see what you did, kid? This is fucked. She's pissed. And then I'm trying to think what happens after that. After that, they meet Satoshi, the other kid. Like, that kid has endless money, and then you get to see what he would spend it on if he did have like unlimited money. And the answer is a lot of stupid shit for the rest
Mm.
of the book.
Uh-huh.
Oh man, they go to the carnival, like the not I guess yeah, the dark carnival, and it's like the
Mm-hmm.
pier side, like New Jersey maybe. It's like, there's like a roller coaster and a Ferris wheel and an arcade and a dark. It's like the dark carnival. So they bring him there, but this kid, he's got to always get to the tallest point. Like we've seen him do it like 4 times. Like we've seen him like do it every single time. His instinct is always go to the tallest thing, and so he he basically climbs to the very top of the infraction bot's web and almost gets his like hand pierced, but then doesn't, and he like holds on to the infraction bot instead. But then so we bring him, and so he's looking. So he's with Tusk and Zamira, the wife, and
Mm-hmm.
they're also kind of babysitting Satoshi, and also the 14-year-old and the 17-year-old. And
Mm-hmm.
so Samar is looking through the like chain link fence at the wooden roller coaster, and he's looking at it, and we're like watching it like through like his vision. Like we're watching the conversation that he's watching. He's amazed. He doesn't want to admit it, but he's like amazed with Tusk's body and Tusk's power and just Tusk in general. Like it's not like a gay fascination. It's like he doesn't have a dad fascination. And so he's just like role modeling, like trying to. He's like watching this dude, and but then the roller coaster like takes his attention because he stops talking. Like Tusk stops talking, and like Zamira starts talking, and then like very quickly starts talking about nothing he gives a shit about to Candy Chan. And so this kid, he's like staring at it, and like we're like zooming in, and like we're like staring at the tower, and then it starts like going up, and we like see it's going up. We already know what the kid's thinking. The kid's gonna climb the tower, which is like that's fucking crazy. So the next thing, hey, where'd that kid go? And then someone like at that exact moment would be like, oh my god, look up there, and like, oh shit. And then like they all look, and like sure enough, this kid's like fucking climbing all the way up there, like rock climbing it. So they shut the whole ride down, but they can't stop him. They send a drone up there. They get the fire department basically out there, and so he makes it all the way to the top, like, and it's like a very, very difficult climb, and like the people who work there can't get up there because For some reason, it doesn't matter. I don't know. Who knows? I'll come up with some plot device. Maybe the ladder, the safety ladder, is broken or something like that. That makes a lot of sense. Like it's rusted. So they're trying to get him down, but they can't. And so he's on the second tallest tower, and he only realizes that when he finally gets to the top and he looks across, and he looks gets to the top, and like pulls himself up to the very top, and he's like in a spotlight, like everyone's watching. There's like a drone overhead, and he looks behind him and he sees like everybody, and he sees the moat under him with like the boats, and like it's very windy and it's like very dangerous to be up there, and like it's like a lot darker than he would have thought, and like he can see the dark ocean, and like he wasn't really expecting to be able to like see over the wall, and so like it's kind of like a lot for him, and he's like his eyes are like wide, and he's like looking, and so then he looks forward, and like there's another tower, like it's like another like hump on the thing, but he couldn't tell from where he was when he started climbing that that's the taller tower. And then there's an even taller tower on top of that, which is a lightning rod for safety. Like, yeah, it's like a lightning rod. So like we already know that this fucking kid is gonna go up there and try to put his monkey sticker up there, because he was able to exchange all those tickets for the only thing that kids can redeem, and that is stickers. And so he got his own stickers because he's seen these graffiti kids. He's seen kids doing graffiti now. Like Candy Chan's done graffiti in front of him. Zamir has done some artwork with a pen in front of him. Tusk has not done any of this. The two annoying Mohammeds, they're like the announcer boys, and they're based on that show that you finally saw the episode, right? We finally watched it. Yeah, we finally watched it.
Yeah.
So those type of idiot gangster kids, and so he is gonna tag the very top of this no matter what, and so he like gets ready, like he's gonna jump, and then the fire department guy, he's so calm. He's like, kid, please just don't jump. Come on, man. I'm trying to go home. Like he's so apathetic. Because before it was like this like annoying guy with a bullhorn, and then the older guy, like he's like he tries it too, and they're taking turns like, come on, kid, don't do it, don't do it. And then he like does it. He like gets like a running start, and then like jumps, and he like makes it, but then he like scrambles, and then he like falls the whole way. And then like boom, he hits his that's it. That's like the last that anyone can see of him, because he falls between the towers, kind of. So people can't see him. They think he died. And Kane Chan's like, oh shit. Tusk's also like, oh shit. So Tusk literally takes the metal post, and he lifts it out of the ground, and then just like bends it over his knee forward, and then like to destroy the fence like it's butter, and then just rips the fence open like it's like absolutely didn't even exist. And the same way that me and you move thorn bushes, he moves this razor fence. And so yeah. So they go through it, and that's the end of the chapter. So they conclude. So the next scene we see Candy Chan and the rest of them like outside, and the cops are like, who the hell are you? Like, you can't be back here. This is now a crime scene. And Candy Chan's just like, she uses her like shoulder mount thing. She uses it to like basically like blind the shit out of them. Just like it's an incredibly powerful projector. And he's like, oh fuck, what are you doing? But she doesn't stop. And then so Tusk lifts the kid up, gets him out of the water, puts him in a backpack, and then they take him away. And so he breaks his arm, and he's like, he learns humility basically after that. And then Tusk is like, yeah, I will train the boy. And he takes him on as like a Padawan.
Nice. I love that. I love that he's Tusk's Padawan now.
Yeah. And that's how, and so Tusk obviously kind of like, I go back and forth of whether he actually like dies at the end or gets like, I think he definitely, it's either he dies or he's permanently disabled. I haven't decided once, but he definitely loses the fight, and he loses the fight against the rage monster Colossus, and he's based on like the Juggernaut, and like, but every time you see him, he's less and less human and more rage machine. Like he started out not really being that intelligent. He was just like this like weird wrestling dude, but now he's had like so much cyber modification. There's a certain archetype of brute killer that exists in cyberpunk that like I don't know how to describe it really. Like it's like the I don't know. I've seen it in a bunch of anime. Like it's a certain genre of bad guy that I'm writing, but there's no English equivalent, and I can't think of anything in specific. Trigun maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Thanks for listening, babe.
Of course. I love it. Thank you.
We can either break here or you can insert quarters because that chapter has ended.
We can break here for now. Thank you.
I love you so much, dude. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for telling me all your candy chin stuff. I enjoy it a lot.
Thank you. All right. I hope you liked it.
I did. I did. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Yeah. So. He also gets a squirt gun, like an old school, like plastic squirt gun. He sprays the monkey chimpo with it.